Welcome to the early days of Micromobility. This is the very first podcast episode, and I am very happy to have Philippe Mueller on the very first podcast. And it's actually not a coincidence that he is the first one because um, white label software is actually the window or the door to micromobility. And so, Philip, thank you very much for being the first guest. Yeah.
Thank you too, Konstantin. I'm proud to be here.
Yes, thank you very much. So, this podcast is also about entrepreneurship. So, before we really dive into the specific topics of micromobility, I really wanted to know your story. Why did you become an entrepreneur? Because they often mention that being an entrepreneur is not a career. It's a life 24/7. So, it's like being married. So, I really wanted to know your background. What you studied, why you started and mobility, because you were very early when it comes to mobility back in the days when you started.
Mm.
Not a lot of people were doing it. So that's something that I want to also understand why you or how did you even see the potential.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's interesting. So where do I start? So basically, back in school, I was already really interested in economics and everything around numbers and very early also entrepreneurship. So in the last 2 years of school, we founded our first startup, which was a cocktail catering service. So basically, we've built our own bar and put it into our cars, and then we drove to events and were barkeepers basically and selling
Yeah,
cocktails. So that was the first entrepreneurial experience we had. And the first time I had in one night like 2,000 euros in my hand after like working 8 hours or 10 or something in a row. That was the first time I was like, I can get money if I really work for something. And it's all mine, and
yeah.
we have had people working for us in this night. um,
Oh wow.
we sold, or we gave them yeah, their loan basically and money for it. Loan, not like pay rate per
Salary,
hour.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so that was the first really nice experience we had back then.
Yeah,
And
and would you say that sorry, and would you
yeah,
say that the love of entrepreneurship came for solving a solution when you really saw that there was a demand and people were paying for it? Because as an entrepreneur, the first time someone pays for you is really like amazing because you put in so much work. Or was it to make a lot of money? So was it to make a lot of money, or was it to like solving problems?
yeah. No, it was definitely not because of making money. It was more um let's say having an something what we like and making money out of it, of course, like having I mean, back then we didn't need so much, we lived at
Yeah,
home,
you
so
couldn't.
it was all quite cheap. um but yeah, making people happy with the service you offer, that was interesting. But the base idea simply came from doing something what makes what's fun for us, so and doing something what we really like, and trying it out. And also, of course, the economic part behind it. So calculating all the costs, calculating the revenue, calculating, I don't know, everything,
Yeah,
the offer creation process to the potential customers and so on. So that was the first thing we did back then. And then I catch fire, and from that yeah, time, we or I really started to read a lot about entrepreneurship. I wrote my bachelor thesis in entrepreneurship, or basically in an area of entrepreneurship. And yeah, so all my study and everything which I did from then was about economics and entrepreneurship. So yeah,
wow, okay.
I took 6 years, or it took me 6 years to do my bachelor. because I was founding like two companies at that time. So yeah.
Well, it means you had good fun as a student, so
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was stressy, but yeah.
that's part of life, right? And so after that first entrepreneurship venture, did you do a corporate job or did you continue to explore other entrepreneurship ventures?
Yeah, I always try to explore it. So the first time we really founded a bigger company was in 2011, also together with Benny, the co-founder of Fleetbird, and today Wunderfleet. Um, and we founded a mobile gaming startup in Berlin. And we got some money from a business angel, 100,000 euros back then, and so we started from scratch doing mobile games. The interesting thing is we had no idea how expensive it is to build mobile games. So we definitely ran out of money quite soon. We came quite far, but we didn't even make it to the app stores. So it was a huge learning curve, but we didn't make it. And after that, I decided to finish my study, and while I did that, so my bachelor back then, and while I did that, I always worked as a freelancer for different companies. And one of them was Fitix, which is um, a gym chain in Germany.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think the second biggest today. And back then they had 10 studios, so 10 gyms. And the founder has an amazing background story, a crazy cool background story as an entrepreneur, and that really inspired me as well. So during the work there, I was always like, what can I do next? What can I do next? And yeah, and but then I definitely needed some money and started a job yeah, not a consultant, but it was more like a product slash project manager strategy in a digital agency. So building apps, websites, etc. For clients, different kind of clients, corporate, smaller ones, and yeah, and then I did that for around about 2 years.
yeah.
Um, and then Benny called me and said, hey man, we need to do something in the mobility sector together again, like, because I mean we founded in 2011, and the call came
Yeah.
in I think somewhere in 2016. So it was some years later. In between we also did some other stuff together, but yeah, that was the time that everything started.
And you know what is also quite remarkable with you and Benny is that it's not the first time you work together, right? It's
Yeah.
very remarkable that you always work together or multiple times. Uh, that is something that I really think is quite special. So if you could explain that a little bit, because a lot of founders have some sometimes problems with co-founders and so on. But
Mm.
if you, I mean, with you and Benny, you always stayed friends and always started together again. And obviously, you made some success, So I think that is something worth discussing as well. And I think people can learn from your partnership.
Yeah, that's very interesting relationship, because so we started in 2011 together with a third co-founder, Arthur, and but till this day, today, Benny and I, we have a very strong business relationship, and in my opinion, that's because so he's the IT guy, I'm the product and economic guy, um, and so I'm conceptual, I'm thinking, I'm building scenarios, and he's
Visualizing and
yeah, and he's doing, he's really like getting shit done and trying to
yeah,
focus. And so and I think the combination of the conceptual strategic thinker and the one who's really like doing is a very good
yeah.
combination, and trusting each other in the sectors where they're good at.
So now to dive into the mobility topics, I
Hmm.
wanted to get back to the question that I earlier asked about the potential that you and Benny saw in mobility that early on, because you guys were really early when it came to mobility. So if you can explain a little bit about how did you see the potential in this industry, because back then it was still quite early, I would say.
Yeah. It was a mix of accidental luck, potential. So it was really a mix of topics. So back then in Berlin and all over Germany, the first car sharing startups popped up, like Car to Go, so on. And back then, Benny, so I was not involved in that, but Benny founded a company called Spotcar together with other people, or was part of the first team members basically. And he started to build not what's today Wonderfleet or Fleetbird. He started to use Salesforce and using or misusing a CRM system as a booking solution for car sharing. And then he quite fast,
Innovative.
yeah, and he quite fast figured out that that's not going to work. And Spotcar failed back then because the adoption of car sharing services was too slow. And the interesting thing is that today, a lot of the people working for Spotcar is they're still part of Miles Mobility in Germany. So at the end, it came to a good end for them. But this was the start in the beginning, where especially Benny saw, hey, there seems to be some kind of market. And after some time, Inverse as well as Emmy, or today Emmy, back then Emio, um, contacted Benny and said, "Hey, could we somehow use your software?" And that was the trigger where he said, "Well, there's not only one client or two, there might be even more. But then I need a different tech setup. I need a different setup." So yeah, back then that was the time the white label solution was born. It was totally immature, but that was the first thought process.
2016, you said, or 2000?
That was even a
Uh,
little bit earlier. I think 15 it started, and but 16 was like the let's say the first 20 scooters or something. Emmy put out to the streets. Not 100% sure if I mix years, but I think it was 16. Yeah.
Started, it was focused on car sharing mostly, I guess, because electric scooters and so on was still not really something
Yes.
that was known, and the bike share was more old-fashioned, like
Yeah.
station-based with their own technology and stuff,
Yeah.
kind of like old technology, hard to integrate, I guess.
Yeah.
So you started as a car sharing, and then at what point did you see the potential of scooter sharing and electric bike sharing? Because the market for scooter sharing started and then grew so fast at a very short amount of time. So yeah,
Yeah.
you were really there at the very beginning, and you guys were a pioneer actually in pushing that
Yeah.
market.
So that was definitely when when we saw that there are electric mopeds, like not the kick scooters, basically the mopeds back then, that there are even vehicle types that are sustainable and battery, or electric. At the end of the day. And that was innovative. There was something where we saw, okay, that there has to be others who would like to try this kind of vehicle. Um, and also, there was the first time people got access to a rental vehicle by using their mobile phone, right? So this slide to unlock a vehicle digitally via your app. That was actually the first time. Before, you just had to use these RFID chips, you put it at the window, and the car opened. So we were one of the first using this slide to open mechanism.
An iconic thing because everybody afterwards used the same thing, a slide to unlock and then scan the QR codes.
Yeah.
Everybody is using that. It reminds me a little bit of those dating apps where it's like swipe left to
Yeah.
right. It's also an iconic thing, but it's something that is that is iconic, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Our
So
mobile lead, Marius, is really proud because he actually had the idea to slide to unlock.
wow, congrats to Marius. That's wow. That's he played a big role in
Yeah,
and the mobile apps of mobility because they all use it. He's in a way
definitely.
he's a part of he's part of every single
Yeah,
mobility app.
that's true.
um, all right, and so when you started, how did you actually yeah, differentiate from the other white label companies? I guess there weren't too many, but how did you, for example, come up with your pricing? Because the pricing for white label mobility software is also quite yeah, it's a whole specific thing as well. So
Yeah.
that's something I would like to hear about as well.
Yeah. So back then, the only real competitors we had in the market were Electric Feel from Switzerland and Vlog from France. And there was another player which got acquired by Bird, Scoot Networks from San Francisco. Yeah. So they got acquired by Bird I think 2 years ago or something. And these were the only real competitors back then. So we tried to figure out what can they do, what do they offer, where are they active, in which countries, which cities, which vehicle types, and so on. And so back then we had like 2.5 developers working on the product, and we had an amazing speed, I would say, because it was, yeah, we as I said, like Benny is a person who's like doing and getting shit done. And he made all the product decisions in the beginning, like everything was like, okay, I have an idea, I will do it. And that has a crazy speed. um it's a clear hierarchy, and you just do it. And this is, in the beginning, we really had to catch up. We tried to yeah, to get in front of our competition, getting ahead of them. And they were 2 to 4 years ahead actually with their products, and we had to keep up. And the big advantage was back then that all the German players, like public utilities and so on, were really interested in German software. So there was a
Of course.
lucky coincidence. So we yeah, could sell to them actually, and that made us grow in the beginning.
Partnership is key, especially for
Yeah.
longevity. So you were growing with Fleetbirds at a very fast rate, but at some point, you and Benny made the decision. Let's partner up with Winder.
Yeah.
Um, at what point did you look at different partnerships and see, okay, maybe we need to do this and to be able to reach a certain level? And why did you go for a partnership instead of like maybe raising more money and growing the team and trying to do it as your own, with your own company?
Yeah.
Because that's quite important to know as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me throw in some numbers. So in 2017, we made 100,000 revenue, like yearly revenue. And 2018, we did we tripled that, right? So it was 333. So it was an interesting number at the end of the year. And um, so No, sorry. One, or was it 2017? Maybe it was 1 year before, but whatever. So we were in a year where I said, okay, we so no, yeah, sorry, it was 1 year before. So 2016 it was 100,000, and then in 2017 it was 300,000 something. And in the beginning of 2018, it was January, a weekend, Sunday, really dark outside, and Benny and I, we were in a meeting room, in a stand-up meeting room, and thinking about, okay, what should we do? Do we need to raise money? Do we want to get some debt? A bank credit or something to grow the team, because we see some potential, but we also need to build some features. Miles was growing. Moving in Spain was growing a lot. It was back then our biggest customer. Emmy was growing. Stella was growing. So all our clients were growing, and they demanded different kind of features. So we said we definitely need more people in the team. What should we do? And then we started some PR, saying we are bootstrapped, we're doing some revenue, and then all the investors came running towards us and saying, hey, yeah, do you want to raise money? So it was basically an ideal scenario for us. But we were thinking about, okay, what do we really want? Do we want to go in this VC game, and raising money again? And we decided, well, let's maybe wait for an opportunity um, that's different and maybe more strategic. And yeah, basically in February, like 1 month later, Gunnar from Mobility contacted me over LinkedIn, and we got into talks. And the first partnership we did was not talking about investment. The first was getting development budget to develop something for Mobility. So it was um, like an agreement that Mobility, who had way better marketing, way better network, way better brand, um, that they could sell our solution to others. But for that, we had to build some stuff on top of it. And this is how we got some development budget, and then we could hire some people. And I think 1 month later or 2 months later, Gunnar said, well, guys, why don't we try to work more strategically together, and what do you think about an investment? And we said, yeah, I mean, why not? We were also thinking about it, but what do you think about? And he was like, yeah, maybe, like, I don't know, like 20% of the company and this and that valuation and so on. And we got back to him like 1 week later and said, hey, what about you buy us? Like buying a majority in the company, because we would like to have a strategic partner, um, and we are staying in the company, but we want to have um, a, a partner which is way better than us in some parts, like marketing and sales and stuff. Mm, and he was like, is that even possible? Do you want that? Is this an option? And we were like, yeah, why not? Let's discuss. And that was the like, we immediately talked about the acquisition of a company. That was the first time we started to um, yeah, to think about this partnership.
And 2000, late 2018, you said. And at that point, what was Winder offering as a company? Were they also in car sharing or?
No, they Wunder started as a B2C company for carpooling, and they did carpooling in Hamburg, in Manila, so different countries. And yeah, they wanted to build software, like more B2B focused, white label software for different kind of modes. So in our case, it was the free floating um, mode, basically. And I mean, how it went. After that, we started shuttle and um, other
Oh,
models. Yeah.
okay. Or Winder Van was already before,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. All right. So then you start a partnership with Wunder Mobility. And I think around that time, the scooter revolution or the wild, wild west
Yeah,
days of the scooters started, where every week or every 2 weeks, someone started a new company,
yeah,
thanks to the white label solutions like yours. So, how did you experience, you and your team, how did you experience this whole crazy early days of the scooter sharing?
yeah.
Moving.
That was really crazy. So the first time I heard about the kick scooter was with Bird back then, and uh, yeah. So and then it was days, not weeks. We got daily requests and incoming mails from people who would like to start kick scooter businesses, like completely different setups, and nobody had an idea about the vehicles and how to start this. um, and it was, I think it was June, July, August, in so the 3 months in the summer, um, where multiple companies you all know, like Tier, uh, Lawrence
By the
and
way, with
Julian.
yeah,
Yeah, like Lawrence and Julian were in our office in Dortmund. Hive, the Daimler company, they were in the office. Um, uh, Dot, they were in the office in Dortmund. So everyone, actually, all of the big players started with vulnerability. And yeah, so back then, basically Fleetbird. So we have not even been acquired at that time. So I think the contract with Tier was signed some days before we got acquired by Vulnerability. And yeah, that was really interesting. So even the big players contacted us, like today's big players, back then, because there was no better solution for kick scooter sharing as white label to get started, which was mature enough. And as we all know, most of them built their own solutions today, which is totally fine. But yeah, that was how they started.
this illustrates very well how important white label is for the industry, or was and still is, and how you guys as a company made it more accessible to entrepreneurs to really launch fast and also scale, especially if you can see where these players are right now, the big players. Congrats to Thierry, Dot, and everybody else. So you guys were really there, allowing them to really start. But my next question is, how were you able to adapt to the scooter sharing um, offering? Because you have the hardware, you have the IoT, and obviously you have the white label software. So these are different connections and integrations that you had to do at a very short time of period, I guess. Uh,
Mm.
and I'm not sure if before that you already were dealing with IoT communication modules and so on, and the vehicles from China. And so,
Yeah.
can you explain a little bit as well?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we definitely did some IoT integrations already back then, and worked with different sets of IoTs. But Inverse back then from Germany was the most mature, and it still is for car sharing players, the most mature IoT. And everything else was in the early days, let's say. So we had no idea from, let's say, direct communication with IoT. So over the IoT protocols, we always tried to communicate with APIs because that's way easier, and we didn't have the technology back then to integrate directly with an IoT. This is today possible with Wunder, but back then it was not. So we were looking for so first of all, to answer the question, it was product market fit, which or and market needs and the pressure from customers who brought us to to this, that we adapted fast, and we had to build this. Um, Tier, one example, they started with Segway scooters in combination with Commodore. So Christian from Commodore and his team, they talked to us. They talked to Tier. Tier ordered with Segway. We visited Segway in Amsterdam. We had the guys from Commodore in Dortmund, Segway in Dortmund, and so on. So everyone worked together, like really collaborative, to make it possible that players like Tier could start from scratch. And then there were others like Dot or many more that thought about building their own IoT, or at least using a third party IoT. And um, then it was tricky for us to really offer something, because we didn't have this, let's say, custom IoT integrations. So what we had built back then was a so-called hardware API. So others, without our not or without our help, could integrate with our system from their side. So it's possible that you could use any kind of IoT you want by using our hardware API. So we were basically vehicle agnostic, and we could use anything which works with the rest of the processes of the system. And yeah, that happened in months, not years or something. So we had to be really fast. And yeah.
What makes the mobility industry so special is that there are so many partners with hardware, IoT, and obviously the software white label that make it possible for every operator to provide their solution. So they all work together, and it works. So that's quite amazing.
Yeah,
But
it's really complex. So if you think about, there's a vehicle on the street, and you can, as an end customer, open it via your phone. So what happens, you know? So first of all, you need to make sure that the vehicle is reachable and you can somehow interact with this vehicle. So the first thing you need to do is making sure that the connection to the vehicle somehow works. And this is a huge flow of data, actually. Not a large amount of data, but like having multiple steps in between. So there's the vehicle, there's the IoT, so the vehicle itself, the IoT that needs to control the vehicle.
yeah,
Then there's the IoT server, which transforms this physical protocols and this firmware into web conform, basically API ready data. You're
yeah,
sending this data to your system, and your system has checks and like rule engines and so on, like if you're allowed to start or not start the vehicle and so on. So there's a very yeah, a
there's a
lot
lot
of
going on.
points. Yeah, definitely.
So actually, the way it goes is the data is sent to the cloud, and then the white label software controls the vehicle with the cloud or
Yes, so it's
the command.
basically we say let's say command unlock the vehicle, and
Yes.
then this is transferred to the IoT server, and then this is transferred to the vehicle, and the vehicle reacts, we get a response from it. And then and then we know, oh yeah, it's there and it unlocked successfully, and then we allow the next step to be, you know. So
Yeah.
there are multiple steps in between. And it's even getting more complicated with the GPS position, like where's the vehicle at, is this like a no parking zone or a low
Oh,
speed zone, so
exactly.
depending on the regulations and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely one of the most challenging parts in this whole mobility sector, controlling and monitoring the vehicles.
Yeah. But it's nevertheless it's quite interesting because the technology behind it is quite innovating, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned some of the big companies of today that started with Winder because Winder is the window or the door to the mobility industry, as I mentioned. Um, Obviously, you met a lot of founders, a lot of companies throughout the years who started with your company. Some of them were successful. They pivoted and are still around. But also, I assume some of them were not able to sustain their business and still be around. What would you say are the most important things that you saw that founders should improve, or what makes the difference between successful companies now and the companies that were not able to become a success?
Yeah. So I would say it's mainly, so from my opinion and in my experience, it's two things to be successful in this market. So the first is having an eye on the end customer and really delivering a good service, um, and doing also good brand and marketing, of course. And the second is, don't worry too much about all the operational stuff. The first, the most founders that contact us, they are worried about operations,
Exactly.
efficiency, costs,
Exactly. I was the
everything.
same way as well.
And that's definitely important. That's really important, and you have to have the tools and so on. But if you are concentrating too much on this part, you're forgetting that out there there have to be first people using your service. So if you start at the end of the funnel optimizing your funnel, then it's not ideal. So you have to put some more into the funnel. So more end customers, more vehicles, more marketing, more brand, more loyalty, offering a good service, and not worrying about too much, like if you can distribute the tasks automatically, or having an AI detecting the vehicles on the picture or stuff, that it's all efficiency and optimizes you. But it's, first of all, you need to get things on the street, getting end customers voting for your service, loyalty, sharing your service, being friendly in customer service, and so on. And as a founder, you should definitely walk through all the steps yourself, like doing customer service, doing operations, and learn from what's really the business, and not just theoretically from a efficiency or business perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, they need to make sure that we transport people from point A to point B. That
Yeah.
is what really matters, and that should be the focus, I think.
Giving you an
But
example, Lawrence Leuschner from Tier Mobility, so
yeah,
co-founder and CEO Tier Mobility. Um, Lawrence called us every day while he was on the scooter from his home to the warehouse, you know, and was complaining about bugs, or something that didn't work or whatever, and he was using it every day himself. And I mean, today maybe he will still do it, but that was the early days, and you have to try out your own stuff, and that's what he did.
yeah, exactly. And I think that is what I really love about being entrepreneurs. At the very beginning, you are doing most of the work yourself or with your co-founders, so you are doing everything yourself. So you learn from everything, whether it's customer support or whatever, and that really makes you care about the offering and the solution, because you go through everything and you really care whether you provide a good solution. So I think that is something that really matters, and it's nice to hear that story from Lawrence, because now he's a great big company. So it's great to see that he also started as most founders.
Yeah.
But it's also something that I think is quite important to know when it comes to white label software. As a white label software, obviously you don't customize too many things. You have one platform or one solution that is for all your clients. It can be, of course, branded and so on. But I assume you also have founders. I mean, most founders come to you with their own idea, their own vision, and maybe sometimes you have to tell them, okay, guys, maybe it's better to start with the what we have, and then you can when you have clients, you can add things, or we can see how we can work around it. So
Yeah, that's that's for the white label business and Wunderfleet. To be honest, the hardest part in in everything what we are doing, because the complexity comes from, there are so many cities, regulations, countries, but also the let's say the founders' ideas. how to differentiate yourself, and so on. And what you would like to see is that a white label service is customizable in the way you would like to be it customized, but it's actually not. And um, what we've built in the years is a very flexible solution. So you can start with it. You have a huge feature set which you can work through. You can also customize some stuff. We already have some things you can customize. You can adapt several use cases. You can do a lot of things if you know how. And this is where our technical account managers or others come in and help you. But there are restrictions, or there are borders to the left and the right, and we cannot go over that. But still, clients are requesting it more and more. And so what we've built in the last years is a very strong set of APIs. And if you want to customize a lot, the first thing you should do is building your own app. You know, building your own app on top of our APIs and using the backend. Then the next step is using our APIs, our webhooks, etc., to build some systems to the left and the right. Garage management, task management. If you need
Okay.
something more complex, like building stuff around our core. And at the end of the day, and also we introduced the marketplace. So even if we did not build something which is, let's say, like rebalancing, like a very mature rebalancing system, then you can use one of our partners from the marketplace and use them. So using a combination at the end of the day of services, but the core of our system should always be used. And of course, then there are players like Tier or Dot or whoever who simply are too big and growing out of the service. Um, and that can happen, and that's fine. If you are getting to a point where you have so many unique things you want to do yourself, then of course the white label comes to an end at some point. But that's also the reality for us. So we are focusing on everyone else, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually, how do you anticipate the white label coming to an end? Because when you have a customer, obviously you hope that they become big and become a world leader. And obviously, at some point, when they've reached a certain level, they will most likely start to develop their own and maybe leave the white label. How do you anticipate this in some way, or?
Yeah, we of course we're always checking in and checking in with the customer about their plans, how they want to grow, and to also give them advice how to use the system in the right way. So some think, okay, I have to quit working with you if I want to build my own app. No, you don't. Like, just build your own app and put it on top of our APIs. And so you need to know the options, you need to know what to do. And on top of that, I would say that, so today we have way more features and possibilities than maybe 2 years ago. So there are, even for very big players, parts of the system they can still use.
Yeah.
One example would be what we call IoT connector. So that's the IoT server communicating with the vehicles. So maybe you don't want to build this yourself and just pay some euros per vehicle to work with it on your side of the system. And maybe the rest of the Wunderfleet system doesn't work for you anymore. That's fine, but this works. But what's not possible, I would say, is coming to us as a big player and say, I would just like to use your invoicing service or your that or that service. That's tricky. Like getting rid of some parts and cutting it out and using your own stuff, that's possible. Just using some parts of our system is way more tricky.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also part about making business decisions, right?
Mm.
You need to focus. Maybe you don't want to do the IoT yourself or to do the development yourself. Maybe you want to focus on reaching new markets and having a white label solution that is scalable has the experience makes more sense, I would say. What I also wanted to get into is the early young founders when they come to Wunder Mobility, they most likely have their own features that they want to introduce, or they have a different business model. I remember when Julian and I, came to Wunder Mobility with Friel, we had a very specific business model, and we discussed for months with Tobias and Yannick. And at that point, Wunder did not exactly have what we wanted, but still we made it work, and we found a way around it. So, but looking back now, I wish we would have just used the offering that Wunder had, and that we did not waste so much time on trying to get those specific features.
Yeah, that's that's definitely a mistake a lot of founders are doing. And this is because and that's also totally fine. They're following their idea of how to differentiate themselves, because they are also um, let's say differentiating when it comes to investor money, and getting funds into the company. If you go to investor and say, yeah, we're doing the same thing like all the other Wunder clients, then it's maybe trickier to raise some money.
But if you look at the electric scooter sharing market, everybody is doing the same, has the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
pricing, same vehicles. They do have different branding, and everybody has quite good branding. But
And exactly, and I think most are, let's say, overestimating the value of having custom stuff, because for the end customer is having a different color and some different parts in the app, it's already different. you know the scooters out there are different, the app looks different, and for the end customer it's not like, oh, it's completely the opposite. If you're reading some books about product and nice products and how they are built in the US, most probably, it's about creating habits, and it's about creating what people know. And if you know how app works, that's a good thing. If you are building just some new fancy nice stuff, maybe they don't know how to use it. So that's also an interesting part. And after some years, like tier or others, you can, because you have revenue, you have more money, you can start to differentiate yourself.
actually, that is what I really want to discuss as well, is loyalty. So customer loyalty when it comes to these scooter sharing companies, because as mentioned before or discussed before, they all use the same vehicles, the same white label software, same pricing. But how do you create customer loyalty? Obviously, there are some ways you can do it, and some
Mhm.
companies manage to really create that emotional attachment to their offering. But for early entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who don't have too much funding, for example, that's quite hard to do.
Yeah,
What do you think they should do, or what is your advice to create the customer loyalty?
definitely you should be creative, because just think about how end customers are using the service. You're going into the street, you see a vehicle and you grab it. That's how it is today, right? So where's the loyalty coming from? The loyalty comes from, let's say, when you open an app and you don't see a vehicle around, which is from the provider you offer, then you take just a different one. um,
Exactly.
that could be one case, um, but there are also, we know today that there are also other factors which make you walk 500 meters to the vehicle from that provider, like gamification elements, promotion, sales vehicles, and so on. Because it's not just about like convenience, it's in front of me and I will use it. So having a very good density, like putting hundreds of vehicles into the city, is not the only thing you need to do. It's definitely about creating loyalty through creative parts in your service. So one example, it's it's just one example, but some years ago, Emmy had an issue because it was getting winter, and they had to bring all the vehicles in Berlin to their headquarters, and they did not have enough street operators. So everyone was sick or they couldn't pay the people. So the founders started to collect all the vehicles, and then said, "Wait, guys, we cannot afford to go everywhere and collect this. I don't know, 200 vehicles and stuff." So what they did is um, they started a barbecue at their headquarters and invited everyone of their customers who will bring the vehicle. They will get a free, roasted sausage from the barbecue, and
Wow,
I
that's
think,
quite creative.
yeah, that's really creative, and you know what? Every single vehicle was brought to the headquarters. So
Wow.
and this is, I mean, that definitely created loyalty and word of mouth. And these are that's what I was also thinking about and meaning when I said, as a founder, you should not think about too much of like efficiency and operations and funneling. You should also think about the creative part of your offering. The brand, why do you want to use an Emmy? you know they gave all the scooters a name called, Constantine, Helmut, Philip, Stephen. I don't know. So it was way more personal than number 2560. And also creative part, just use it. You have to think about it, how to differentiate yourself on a creative level. And then that's definitely also a factor of getting loyalty.
Yeah, exactly. And what I also think is important is involving the community.
Yeah.
So what we try to do with Frill, and what I'm trying to do with Smooth City, is to partner with local bike shops, partner with local bars. So because sometimes it may seem that we are making revenue, but not really reinvesting back into the community. And I feel like when the community feels like they are part of the solution that you offer, they will start to use it more. They will promote it more because it's part of their own in a way. And I think that is something that is maybe sometimes not so much promoted yet. But even though today a lot of big players are involving the community, talking with the legislators and so on,
Yes.
so
That's
we definitely improved throughout the years, I would say.
That's 100% true and really important. We see that 0.02% of people are using the service in a different city. So it's nothing, you know?
Yeah,
So basically, it's nothing. And so it's about the city, it's about your community, it's about what happens in this business area. And that's really, really important. It's a local use and not a,
exactly,
it doesn't matter if in I don't know, let's take Germany, in Berlin or Hamburg, you're doing this or that. It's about what you do in Berlin, it's about what you do in
exactly,
Hamburg. Also a creative part, from one of our clients who was active in Berlin and Hamburg. They use the introduction emails and thank you emails to clients, and customize them to the city. So the regional, um, uh, let's say the typical words you say or the typical phrases you say
okay,
in this area, they put it into the introduction emails or something, so you really felt, oh yeah, I'm from Hamburg, I know what you're talking about, guys. So, and that's also really creative.
yeah. That makes it really personal and makes you feel like it's part of your own
Yeah.
community. That's really creative as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so obviously you've met a lot of founders at the beginning of their career. How do you differentiate, or how do you look at founders and say, okay, we will invest time with them, we will, have them as client and help them, because you as a company are big and you need to put time and efforts. But those founders usually only have like a small team. They might not have funding yet. So in a way, you need to trust or believe in them to work with them, because it doesn't always work out successfully. So how do you which things do you look at that makes you think, okay, these founders have it in them to to become really big and to become big clients. Obviously, with Emmy and so on and Thierry, they were quite creative, as you mentioned. So that can make a difference between successful and non-successful founders.
Yeah, so first of all, from a product and company perspective, we try to be very fast in onboarding, and so that we don't have to think about too much, like who we onboard and who we don't, because
Okay.
we did not took, I don't know, 3 months to onboard someone. It took us like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, of work. So it was really fast. But especially at the times where everyone was contacting us, it was yeah, hard to keep up. So our onboarding times grew, but still it was possible. So it was like automations on the software side, onboarding documents, investing in customer success people so they can onboard others and so on, and also technical people, of course. But from a founder or a personal perspective, I think it was very important to get a feeling of how realistic is your plan. You know, there are a lot of founders who contacted us and saying, "Yeah, guys, in 3 months, I want to have like 5,000 vehicles on the street. No problem. I know people with money, blah 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 blah." And then I was, well, you have no idea. Like, it takes 3 months to even get the vehicles from China. So it's not even possible to get it like 5,000. Yeah, no problem. We have them in the warehouse somewhere. Okay, could you send a picture or something? No, no, blah, blah, blah. And that was where you could find out if it's realistic. That was the first thing what was important to me before signing a contract, because if you just follow a dream and there's nothing behind it, it's getting a waste of time maybe. But as you guys as well back then, if you have 20 vehicles or 5 or 3, I don't care. um, if you know that it's just 20 vehicles and you have to go for it, then it's totally fine.
You need to start somewhere, right? And
Yes.
uh, I always found it very, remarkable that in a way, Tobias, Yannick, and you really believed in my co-founder at the very beginning because we had nothing. But I think we were able to show you in a short amount of time that we had some potential because we signed some big clients in just 2 or 3 months already. Went to Saudi Arabia, signed WeWork in Paris in just a few months. So I
Yeah,
think in a way, but the
definitely.
trust we got from you guys at the beginning also pushed and helped us to believe in ourselves even more, because when you have a big company uh, with so many experience, so many big other players believe in you as an early founder, that really pushes you to deliver at the end of the day,
Yeah.
because you know that they are looking at what you are doing. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is also what made us grow, right? Nobody knew that like when Emmy started, the three co-founders back then. They had, I think, 20 vehicles when they started. We had no idea where this would be going. you know, Moving from Spain, they were at some point with over 2,000 vehicles. The biggest
wow.
customers back then, before Tier and Hive and so on started. And the first 9 months, we didn't even visited these guys, so it was a completely remote relationship, like everything. We had no idea where they're at and whatever. And they when once we had a call with someone from the US, they were in a truck, and did the first sales call in a truck. And the trust I had back then from people doing the first call from a truck, I was like, oh, holy, I what's that? Do you know Newt from Florida?
What's the name?
Newt, Newt.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And the founder from Newt, he first called us, and he had like a big sign in the background, Newt, and it was light and glowing and so on. And I was like, "Oh, you have a really nice office." And then he was turning the camera and was like, "Man, I'm in my garage. I'm just testing this. I just want people to know that it's a big company, you know. But to be honest, I don't have money. I'm in my garage." So it was so funny. And but still, I was like, "Man, this is so cool, you know. Every big thing started in a garage, you know."
Exactly.
So
We
yeah,
all start small, and then yeah.
definitely. And he's still there and he's doing good. And yeah, so that's same for Paul Suhi and his and who's his mate, the guys in New York with Revel Transit. They
Um,
also started talking to us and ended up back then with Inverse and Vlog. But yeah, it was really interesting. They did their first calls when they were working for their previous employer, and they were hiding in the office. Like, I need to get into a different room because nobody know that I will fund a new company. And yeah, so
those early days are always the most stressful, but the most exciting days when you look back, because things are so much more simpler.
yeah.
The bigger you become, the bigger the problems, I would say. Yeah. Now, you guys have been in the industry for a long time, and you have a lot of data. Obviously, data is quite important when it comes to sustainable mobility, because at the end of the day, we want to change people's behavior, people's habits, and make them use the sustainable solutions that we offer. So, how do you look at data, and how do you, you guys as a company, use the data, if you use any data, to support your clients and to make sure that they, have some data regarding their clients, or how they can influence their clients?
Yeah. That's a topic which is really challenging for a white label provider, because we are not owning this data. We are basically just a data processor,
Yeah, correct.
and we have data processing agreements, and the data is owned by the operator. So we do not have any service or any feature in our system which is using other operators' data and combines it and learns from it or whatever. So, and if we would offer something like, I don't know, rebalancing algorithms or something which relies on data from multiple partners, we would need to ask them. um,
Exactly.
we are not doing this today. Of course, for internal purposes, we are using data and trying to analyze it, but it's mostly about usage data of our product. So it's not that we are
Oh,
checking in, like, I don't know, how Berlin is performing or how Hamburg is performing or whatever city is performing. It's more about, let's say, if there's a city regulation in London, we want to find out first, like, how is the vehicle movement, and how could stations influence the movement and the behavior of people. And then we are analyzing data, of course, but we are not using this actively to consult or advise clients. That's definitely not what we do, and I think that's important. But of course, we help operators to understand the data. We help them to analyze it, but they have to do it with third-party data
yeah,
analytics provider.
exactly. So, but to kind of like come back to the data, so you use the data for internal purposes and improving your solutions, or adding new features, I guess. Or,
Yeah, yeah, correct. So when we see, let's say, the task management feature is used a lot, then we say, okay, well, maybe we should think about improving it a little bit more. Or let's say, if we discover that a specific flow, like refunding money back to the customer, if refunding is used a lot but you have to click 20 times, we need to optimize this click route, so reducing it. And we are thinking about this. We are checking in different areas, mobile as well as our administrational panel. But yeah, there are a lot of examples we could do better. There are a lot of examples which we could build, but this is how we use data as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This industry has been innovating and pivoting quite fast, but it hasn't always been like that. There was a point where a lot of money was being put into the industry. It was really crazy, but at some point around when the corona, the pandemic happened, everything shut down and nobody knew how long it would take. A lot of companies were in some trouble. How did you and your company experience this very uncertainty period?
Yeah. So for us, it was definitely a hard time because we, of course, had no idea what happens to all of our operators. So we also had to let go and lay off a lot of our employees back then, or not just laying off, but also we were in a huge hiring process for a lot of people, and we basically stopped all of that because we didn't know what to do, right? So we didn't know what will come. Um, and when we talked to our clients in different cities, different countries, everyone was completely concerned. Some in their funding rounds and whatever. And there were some weeks where we discussed with the clients what to do, and we gave a lot of clients the possibility to pay us later, so they didn't have to pay the invoices in these months, but they had to pay it later actually. And that was a very nice and good thing to establish a good relationship to our clients, and making sure they are not getting bankrupt during these months. I mean, it's not just about us, of course. There were a lot of other factors, but I
Exactly.
think it was also good. And but we saw a very quick recovery already by the end of the year. So some weeks, some months later, it was already getting back to pre-corona and pre-COVID states. And so in today in 2021, we see it's definitely even more usage on most of our players than in 2020 and 2019. So it's back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. And it recovered quite fast. And my next question would be is where do you see the industry heading? Do you see, obviously we see a lot of acquisitions or strategic acquisitions. Uh, do you think in the future or in the near future we will have more these consolidations? Or how do you see the market evolve?
Yeah. So I think the first time I heard consolidations was in 2017. So everyone was talking about consolidating companies, and aggregators will rule the market, and both didn't happen. So I definitely see that there are some big players like Tier or whatever, who are yeah, offering multimodal services and getting bigger. Mm, but they will not be able to serve the whole demand, and there will be others also in the market. So we will definitely see some consolidations. That's going to happen. We will see more players going multimodal, so offering multiple vehicle types. That's already happening. We will see more because it's simply speaking, it's easier today to simply offer multiple vehicle types. From a tech perspective, from an operational perspective, it's still as complicated as before, because you have different vehicle types, you need different kind of
Balancing,
mechanics. Yeah,
mapping.
especially in the garage, to repair stuff and so on. It's still complicated, but we will see this. We will see definitely more regulations from the cities, not because they want to restrict services per se, but they want to offer something which is not disturbing the people too much. could be stations, could be low speed zones, no parking zones, other business areas on Sunday than on Monday, that you have to
Yeah.
adjust depending on the day of the week or the time of the day. So there will be more flexible modes here and there. I do not see aggregators winning. So like Free Now, of course, always puts new milestones into their PR, like we're growing with Tier, we're growing with whoever. But I definitely see, yes, that's nice and everyone is doing it because it's convenient. But I don't see the market going in this direction.
Yeah, and there's also one other way that I think the market might be going. If you look at Thiers, for example, uh, they do very strategic acquisition when you look at their charging hubs. So you can really see that they are thinking about the future and about future solutions. So I think this is also a way where the market will grow and differentiate by owning different aspects of your solution actually. So the
Yeah,
charging hub, obviously, uh, you know, buying an X bike and becoming the
yeah.
biggest, being multimodal basically.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So definitely, I think having some more parts in your own value chain, some verticals, could be hardware, could be software, could be marketing. There are some parts you can strategically acquire or do. That will happen more and more. The next bike acquisition was, I think, really smart because they have a lot of relationships in cities. So you're winning the cities by buying next bike. That's really
that
smart.
is the first thing I thought about when I saw the acquisition. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, Thiers is going to win every tender and East Europe already.
yeah. That's really smart.
Very
And yeah, I think that so the battery charging, I'm not a fan, to be honest. I think it can work, but it's really expensive, and it's not clear if the end customer really gets motivated by getting an incentive like money to go to the station and charge or basically recharge the battery or getting a second battery.
yeah.
That's tricky, I would
Yeah,
say.
I don't. I didn't really understand the business model of battery recharging because from my understanding, they work together with local shops or
Yeah,
whatever, place the charging hubs there, and from my understanding, the user has to go and um,
yeah.
get a new battery or charge the battery, and then they receive a reduction or something. Or
Yeah, correct. They get money or 3 minutes or something to do it, to go there. And yeah, it's well, I think it might work in some communities, in some parts, but
well, it
my
depends. It's different cultures, and like you
yes,
said, indeed.
definitely. That's and I'm not sure if it really works on a global scale. um, it's like a second business model you want to do, um,
Yeah.
just to optimize your operations, let's say.
Yeah. All right. So before you go into your own next venture, actually, I think yesterday was your last day at one of the company that you were a part of and influencing the market. You guys played a big role in the industry. 2 days ago or yesterday was your last day, and then you will start with your new venture. How do you feel about leaving the company now, having had such a big influence? I mean, the companies that we discussed that started with Wunder are billion-dollar companies, and just three or 4 years, and you guys really were the start for these companies. And you and Benny and Wunder Mobility played a big role. So how do you feel about being such an influence on the market?
Yeah, that's mixed feelings. So definitely, I'm super uh, yeah, excited about what's coming next. But leaving the team is really emotionally the hardest thing to do. Some days ago, my wife asked me if I'm proud of what I did, and I said I'm not sure. Like I don't know if I have to be proud or something. I'm not the type of guy who's proud. But if I think about also what you said, I am proud of it. I think it's cool what we've built. It's definitely a great time to remember, and I'm leading a great team and great, especially a team spirit, which is really cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a career that I go. It was planned, and it was never a secret that Benny and I that we want to found a new company at someday again. So it was not a surprise to most of the people. So it was totally fine to really go at the end of the day. Yeah.
And your next venture, your next company, can you already maybe discuss some things about it? And which industry will it be? Will it be again in mobility? Will it be B2B, B2C?
Yeah,
Uh, is it software? Is it hardware? Can you already say
of
a
course.
little bit? Because it's my first podcast episode, so you can get a scoop.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I can give some sneak peek. Yeah, so we really discussed a lot if we would like to go into mobility again, because obviously it would be let's say the easiest way, the easiest route we could go, because we know a lot of people in the market, and I would say we know a lot of problems that we could tackle
You can easily
from a
become successful again if you go to mobility.
so I think it would be the easiest way of doing it. But we decided to not go into mobility um, because we wanted to challenge ourselves. So the next thing we are doing is pure software as a service. Not this enterprise B2B software as a service as we did today. Like it's more a mess software as a service for all companies out there, I would say. And I always call it an audio first workspace for teams. So like Discord or TeamSpeak, a room based or a Clubhouse, you might know this as well from the hype, like a room based audio space for teams where you can talk in sync and also asynchronously with voice messages, etc. But having spontaneous conversations. So you, Konstantin, would have your Konstantin desk. You're sitting there, and then Philip knocks at your door and says, "Hey, are you there?" You're getting in, joining the room, and you discuss spontaneously instead of setting up a call, a scheduled meeting. It's more flexible team conversations, and yeah, we would like to offer this to all these teams out there who believe that remote and hybrid work needs needs a level up. And I cannot imagine working with Slack and Zoom and Teams the next
There's so
30,
many
40
different
years.
things out there that sometimes you don't even know which one to use. And I
Yeah,
think the solution removes the hassle of getting a Google invite, clicking on the Google invite. We can just knock on the meeting room and
yeah.
ask. So, where did this idea come from? Is it an issue that you saw in your own professional life, or is it something that came somewhere else? Where did you see the need for this solution?
Yeah, so since I'm, I don't know, like 7 years old or something, I'm a gamer by heart. I'm
And
gaming
this
my
sounds
whole
quite
life.
important.
Yeah, my gaming headphones. And so I'm using TeamSpeak or other services since, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years, something. And being together in audio is, in my opinion, the most lovable way of communicating. um, and of course, like right now the people hearing this cannot see it, but we can see each other because we're on a call, and that's nice, you know. But for 80% of our work routine, I don't need to see the one I'm talking to. I just need to hear them. And at one point, as during the COVID and Corona, I said, well, why don't we have this Discord and TeamSpeak like audio rooms where we can simply join and talk to each other? And with Wonder, we set up Discord as a solution. We didn't like write or something because it's not allowed because of the data policies and stuff. But talking was fine, you know, joining the rooms and talking there. And the whole team used it a lot, like idling in the channels, talking to each other. And then I was like, I think other teams could maybe also do it like this, and they might like it. So that's where the idea came up. Yeah.
So then you went to Benny, and then and then Benny was like, "Let's execute."
Yes, he was like, "Okay, what do we need for that? Like, what's the MVP? Okay, we need a room, we need a a stream to stream audio, and that should be doable. I'm going to check this out." So yeah,
Yeah, actually, that's a quite interesting point you mentioned regarding not needing to see the people you are talking to, but only hearing their voice. Because I think hearing someone's voice can really make a difference. Because sometimes when you read an email, you need to interpret it yourself. But if you can really hear the voice of the person, you know exactly what they mean.
yeah,
I guess that is also maybe one of the reasons why you might have gone with audio
yeah.
and no need for video.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, video is important, seeing each other, and we will also have this, I guess, in the future as well. If you want to have a really collaborative, let's say a Slack killer or a Microsoft Teams killer, you know, if you want to have a really good and nice tool, then you have to build all this stuff as well, but later on, you know. And we really want to challenge this market because I really believe that there have need to be other ways of communicating. You know, I like Slack, I like Zoom, I like whatever, but that's for me the second generation of working together. The first was email and phone, you know, then direct
Exactly.
messages and conferencing tools. And the third generation, in my opinion, is a more flexible collaborative space, and that could be audio rooms having, you know, this synchronous, more spontaneous conversation. And from a social and psychological perspective, it's also different. If I see that there are people in the room, I join the room, I'm part of this room. That's completely different from your mind, for your mind, than going into a call, you know, and hanging up and starting again tomorrow 10 o'clock. It's different. It's like a room virtually. You knock at the door, you're leaving a voicemail, etc. And that's what we want to create, a different experience in working together in a hybrid world, and it will stay a hybrid world.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So everyone has their own room continuously, and you can just enter. I mean, join the room, leave the room, and you can hear the conversations that are going on
Yes,
currently. So it's
correct.
not private. You can just enter, or you need to.
Yeah,
Uh,
it can be both. So there can be closed rooms, of course. We always say uh, um, we want to generate the same feeling as in a normal office. You know, as
okay.
you would be in office. Like if the door is closed, then you're not allowed to come in. You know, if the door is open, join the room, and you can also see who's in the room. Um, if the door is closed, you knock at the door, like asking for getting into it. And so yeah, that's basically how we see it, mirroring the office life, let's say, a little bit, in a different way of yeah, how it is
Yeah.
today.
It's kind of like the metaverse, but with audio.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the metaverse, in my opinion, is the fourth generation because the technology is not there yet, and we need something before that, which is more fun to work with, and that's what we want to create.
Yeah. Again, maybe like what you did with mobility, you might be the window or the door to the metaverse. So
I hope so.
yeah, and so just to kind of like round up this this interview, what are the next steps for your entrepreneurship career? When are you launching, or when are you planning to launch, like early version MVP?
I mean, as you know me, we're starting like right now.
I
So
mean, as I know you, you probably already started
yeah,
with planning and everything. So
yeah, we started quite some while ago with planning and stuff, but in January we will start all together full time. um, and we think that we can offer, let's say, an early access product in Q2, somewhere in Q2. So the idea is to come up first with the first version where we get a lot of feedback, where people can try it out. I want to have some early adopters and teams trying out the solution, giving us feedback as much as possible, in generating this product market fit, and then we want to scale after that.
yeah. And do you already have a name, or can you already mention it? I mean, maybe it's not
Yeah,
made public yet,
sure.
but
No, it's not public yet, but it's fine. It's called
it's,
Unping.
yeah, it's
So
always nice to know what is behind the name, because
yeah,
founders always look for things that's really have a meaning,
yeah,
and they try to translate that in their name, the company, the
yeah.
branding. So I would love to hear it.
Yes. So it's called Unping, unping.com. And there it's, I mean, it's not the fanciest way of getting into the name, but the idea was, so if you get all these notifications and stuff, you always get this ping, ping, ping me,
Exactly.
Konstantin, ping, 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 all these notifications popping up somewhere and pinging you. And unping is just the way of getting, unping yourself, getting rid of these all these notifications, and start talking in the room together, instead of just sending you some direct messages with, hey, should we go to lunch, or I don't know, all these spontaneous conversations. Just go into Konstantin's room and say, hey, do you want to go to lunch? Nice, let's meet outside. So being more spontaneous, and yeah,
It's
that's
like
where
taking
the
it
new
back
things
to the
come.
basics of human communication
Yes.
before all the social media.
Yeah, correct. And I think this is a huge challenge for most of the companies out there, because they don't know how to really start this hybrid work, hybrid office. What does it mean? 2 days in the office, 2 days at home, and 2 days, I don't know, in Mallorca or wherever. So they usually don't know how to set up the rules and set up the communication. And we want to help that that remote work or hybrid work feels like being present in an office. So that's the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much for being the first guest on my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I really loved hearing your own story, hearing also your next venture, hearing about all the amazing things that you did, and I think it's quite nice that the first episode with you is 2 days or a day after you actually
Yeah.
uh, left the company that you helped create, and that you are moving on to your next venture. So it's in a way like it's a full circle, because I started with Wunder, so now you are at the end of Wunder and starting the next. So that's really special, I think. But I also wanted to thank you for believing in us at the early stage, but also thanking Wunder and other white label software, because it's not mentioned a lot, but in a way they make it more accessible to founders, and of course make mobility more accessible to everybody, because without the white label software, it would be hard for people to create sustainable mobility. So you guys are really at the core of a lot of things in mobility. So thank you very much.
Thank you too, Konstantin, and really appreciate your ambition and your engagement in this new mobility sector. That's really important, in my opinion. And I'm pretty sure that you will have a lot of really, really cool guests. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, I fell in love with mobility. Unfortunately, if I would have done corporate job, life would have been way easier, but here I am. There's nothing I can do about it. So, but yeah, I love it.
Perfect. Nice. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much, and hope to see you in real life next time with your new company. So thank you very much.